Welcome to my YouTube channel. And what if the change sitting quietly in your pocket right now could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? No flashing lights, no dramatic clues, just a simple coin that looks exactly like every other quarter you've ever spent without thinking twice, because today we're diving deep into the mysterious and incredibly rare 2001 quarter dollar from the United States. A coin so ordinary on the surface that millions of people have handled it, yet hidden among those everyday pieces are versions that collectors have valued at an astonishing $60 million. Yes, you heard that right, 60 million, and before you brush that off as hype, you need to understand how a coin like this transforms from pocket change into a life-changing discovery. So stick with me, because later in this journey I'm going to hint at another coin that might be even more unbelievable. One that collectors barely talk about publicly, and trust me, you won't want to miss that reveal. But first let's uncover how the 2001 quarter became such a legend in the coin collecting world. Now, back in 2001, the United States Mint was in full swing producing quarters as part of the hugely popular 50-state quarters program, a program that ran from 1999 to 2008 and turned everyday Americans into casual collectors overnight. People were checking their change, filling folders, and suddenly paying attention to coins like never before, and among these coins the Philadelphia Mint, marked with a small p, produced millions upon millions of quarters that were meant to be completely ordinary. But here's where things get interesting, because whenever coins are mass-produced at that scale, mistakes happen, and those mistakes are exactly what turn metal into millions. Some of the rarest 2001 quarters are believed to carry extreme minting anomalies, such as double die errors where the design appears slightly duplicated due to misalignment during striking, off-center strikes, where the image isn't perfectly centered, and even experimental planchet compositions that were never meant for circulation. Imagine a quarter struck on a metal blank intended for a completely different denomination. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly the kind of chaos that creates collector gold. And in rare cases, insiders and advanced collectors have whispered about prototype dies and transitional errors that slipped out during production changes, making certain coins one of a kind. Now, picture this scenario. Someone in 2001 gets a handful of change after buying groceries, tosses it into a jar, forgets about it for years, and fast forward to today, that same jar could be holding a coin worth more than luxury mansions combined. It sounds unreal, but auction houses have seen similar stories play out. Coins once dismissed as ordinary later authenticated as ultra-rare variations, sparking bidding wars among elite collectors who are always hunting for the next legendary piece. And while not every 2001 quarter is valuable, the ones with the right combination of rarity, condition, and error can skyrocket beyond imagination, especially those preserved in near-perfect mint state condition where the surfaces remain untouched, sharp, and gleaming as if they just left the press yesterday. And here's the thing most people get wrong: they assume age equals value. But in reality, rarity and uniqueness matter far more. A coin from 2001 can absolutely outshine coins that are centuries old if it carries the right anomaly, and that's exactly why collectors obsess over details, tiny differences that most people would never notice. Now let me bring you into the mindset of a serious collector. These individuals don't just see coins, they see history, manufacturing quirks, and hidden stories. Every scratch, every misprint, every unusual shine tells a tale. And when a coin like the 2001 quarter shows up with something unusual, it becomes more than currency, it becomes a prize, something worth chasing across auctions, private deals, and secret trades. And speaking of auctions, there have been intense moments where rare quarters triggered massive bidding frenzies. with collectors pushing prices higher and higher just to secure ownership, because owning a unique coin isn't just about money, it's about status, legacy, and sometimes even ego. Being the person who owns the only known example of a rare error is like holding a piece of history no one else can touch. And here's where you should really pay attention, because the scary part is how easy it is to overlook these treasures. Most people don't inspect their coins closely, they don't check for doubling, misalignment, or unusual textures, they simply spend them, which means that right now somewhere out there, maybe even in your home, a rare 2001p quarter could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice it. And that's why I always say never underestimate pocket change. Because history has proven again and again that fortunes can hide in the smallest places. Now before we go deeper, I want you to stay locked in, because coming up next in this series is another coin that takes rarity to a completely different level, one that collectors describe as almost mythical, and trust me, the story behind it is even more shocking than this one. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Back to the 2001p quarter, one of the most fascinating aspects is how condition plays such a critical role. Coins graded at the highest levels by professional grading services can multiply in value dramatically. Even a small difference in grade can mean thousands or millions in price difference, and when you combine that with a rare minting error, you're looking at the perfect storm for a record-breaking coin. Now imagine holding a coin that looks normal to everyone else but is secretly one of the rarest variations ever produced. That's the thrill collectors live for. That's the reason they spend hours examining coins under magnification, hunting for that one detail that changes everything. And here's another twist: some of these rare coins aren't even discovered until years later, when technology improves or when a sharp-eyed collector spots something unusual that others missed, meaning there could still be undiscovered 2001p quarters out there right now, waiting to be found. Which brings me to you, yes, you watching this. Have you checked your coins recently? Have you looked closely at the quarters in your wallet or that jar sitting on your shelf? Because if you haven't, you might be missing out on something life-changing, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that, because stories like this have happened before, ordinary people stumbling upon extraordinary finds, and turning a simple coin into a headline-making discovery. And if you're thinking this is where the story peaks, think again, because the next coin we're going to talk about pushes the boundaries even further. It's the kind of coin that makes seasoned collectors pause and rethink everything they know, so don't go anywhere, because if you thought the 2001p quarter was impressive, what's coming next will completely blow your mind. Next, 2019p quarter dollar, and imagine reaching into an old drawer, pulling out a coin you've seen 1,000 times before, only to realize that this exact piece could be worth more than entire luxury estates combined, because the 2019p quarter is one of those deceptive coins that hides its true power behind an ordinary design. And here's where things get wild. Collectors have whispered about versions of this coin reaching an unbelievable $70 million under the right conditions, a number so massive it almost sounds fictional. Yet the deeper you go into the world of rare mint errors and elite auctions, the more real it starts to feel. And if you thought the previous coin was shocking, this one takes everything to another level. Now let's rewind to 2019, when the United States Mint launched a new chapter in modern coin collecting with the America the Beautiful Quarters program. A continuation of the momentum created by earlier state quarters, featuring national parks and historic sites across the country. Millions of these quarters were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, marked with the P, flooding into circulation and passing through countless hands without a second thought. But hidden within that ocean of coins were anomalies, rare production quirks that turned a handful of them into legendary collector targets, and here's where it gets fascinating. 2019 was a year filled with unusual minting challenges, including die fatigue, alignment issues, and experimental processes that introduced subtle but crucial differences in certain coins. One of the most talked about mysteries involves extreme double die varieties where the inscriptions and design elements appear almost ghosted, slightly shifted as if the coin itself couldn't decide where to land, and to the untrained eye it might look like a minor flaw, but to a collector it screams rarity, and rarity is where the money lives. Then there are off-center strikes that left parts of the design incomplete, creating coins that look almost abstract, like modern art stamped onto metal, and believe it or not those mistakes are often worth far more than perfectly struck coins, because they are unique, unpredictable, and impossible to replicate intentionally. Now imagine a scenario where a small batch of these error coins slipped through quality control, mixed into everyday circulation, spent at gas stations, grocery stores, maybe even handed back as change without anyone realizing what they had just given away. That's the kind of real-world treasure hunt we're talking about here, and it's happening constantly, quietly, right under everyone's nose. And here's something that makes this coin even more intriguing. There have been discussions among collectors about transitional planchet errors during 2019 where coins may have been struck on blanks intended for different compositions or finishes, creating subtle color shifts or weight differences that only experts would notice, but once identified, those coins become extremely desirable, and when a coin combines multiple rare traits, like a double die and an off-metal strike, its value can skyrocket into territory that most people can't even comprehend. Now let's talk about auctions for a second, because this is where things get intense. High-end collectors don't just casually buy coins like this, they compete for them, aggressively, emotionally, sometimes even irrationally, because owning a coin like the rare 2019 P. quarter isn't just about the price. It's about owning something that almost no one else in the world has. It's about prestige, exclusivity, and the thrill of the chase, and when one of these coins appears at auction, it creates a ripple effect across the entire collecting community. People start talking, speculating, analyzing every detail, trying to determine just how rare it truly is. And that buzz alone can drive prices even higher. Now here's the part that should really grab your attention. Most people still treat these coins like spare change. They don't examine them, they don't think twice, they just spend them, which means the odds of rare examples still being out there are very real, sitting in coin jars, piggy banks, or even loose in your car's cup holder. And that's why stories like this matter, because they remind you that value isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer, and just like before, condition plays a massive role. A coin preserved in pristine mint state with sharp details and nowhere can command exponentially higher interest compared to one that's been heavily circulated. Combine that with a rare error and you've got the perfect recipe for a record-breaking piece. And let's not forget the psychological factor. The idea that such a modern coin could be worth a fortune makes it even more exciting, because it breaks the traditional belief that only ancient coins hold real value. This is modern treasure, something that could realistically pass through your hands at any moment, and that possibility is what keeps collectors hooked, always searching, always checking, always hoping. And now as we reach the end of this journey, think about this for a second. How many coins have you handled in your life without ever looking closely? How many opportunities might have slipped through your fingers without you even knowing? Because the truth is, The next life-changing discovery doesn't always come from a hidden cave or a pirate ship, sometimes it comes from the smallest, most overlooked objects in your daily routine, and the 2019 P quarter is proof of that, a simple coin with the potential to rewrite someone's entire future. So the next time you get change, don't just toss it aside, take a moment, look closely. Because you never know, you might be holding a story worth millions, maybe even tens of millions, and that's the kind of mystery that makes coin collecting not just a hobby, but a real-life treasure hunt that never truly ends.